This morning, we're going to take this opportunity for you to present the second half of SUSE Linux Enterprise, the desktop. When we designed this new version of the product, we had one clear audience in mind, the general knowledge workers. Who are they? They're those users in your organizations that primarily require email, task management, calendaring, basically collaboration in general, including the Office suite, as well as a solid web browser. And that's pretty much it, really. So I'd like to invite you, while we're going through the presentation, to think about this type of audience and see if that description actually matches people in your organization. But enough said already. I want to jump right into the demo. So Nat, let's get started.
Okay, great. Thank you, Guy. As Guy said, with Desktop 10, if I could get D1 on the display, please. With Desktop 10, waiting for D1. Our goal was to build a desktop environment which would be extremely easy to use and powerful for basic office workers. For general knowledge workers, how could we build a simple-to-use desktop environment which satisfied their needs? And these are people who live most of the time in email, in a web browser, in the calendar, and maybe occasionally launch an Office application. So what you see here is my desktop. I'm running SUSE Linux Enterprise Desktop 10, and this is Beta 8, which Eric mentioned earlier. You can get a DVD of it here, and you can walk up to the computers in the mezzanine and try it yourself. And this is OpenOffice 2.0, and I'm showing you a slide here that Guy was just sort of presenting to you. And as someone who kind of lives in email, there's a few applications that I use. I tend to have a couple windows on the screen at once. So if I want to switch to one of these other windows that you can see is below this one, I can hit Alt-Tab. And we have this little window switcher that appears. And it's kind of pretty because it shows you a small thumbnail version of the window that you're going to switch to before you switch to it. And that's sort of a handy thing. Makes it a little easier to see where you're going.
It appears to be a glorified experience when you use Alt-Tab on your typical desktop today. Except here, you can visually see it, and if there were any kind of animations, you'd show that to us as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the idea is basically to just provide a little bit of a fun, better-looking experience for people. We find that if people like the way the desktop looks and feels, they're more likely to be able to actually learn to use it. So this is one way of dealing with overlapping windows. Another is if I hit F9, you see the windows just kind of tile themselves, and then you can click on the one that you want to bring to the front. All these effects are part of our next desktop, Desktop 10, and they're all built on a new graphics system that we built that takes advantage of the 3D acceleration present in basically any computer you would have bought in the last couple of years to do some nice effects. So you'll see a few of these things sort of appearing throughout the day, and now you understand kind of how they work a little bit. But I'm going to switch over to my email first. This is actually Evolution. It's our collaboration suite in the desktop. It's an open source tool. And you can see it's showing my calendar here, and you can see that we're supposed to be attending breakout sessions at BrainShare right now. This red line indicates that. There are two calendars displayed here. This yellow one is Jeff's calendar. I'm pretending here to be someone's administrative assistant, and Jeff is my boss, and his calendar is available here, and then mine also in blue. So we have the ability to aggregate multiple calendars into one view and have sort of a proxy access set up. One of the important things about Evolution is that it's highly interoperable. It will work with an Exchange server. If you have a Microsoft Exchange server deployed in your company, Evolution can connect to it. You can read your email. You can read your calendar appointments. You can read your address book. You can do free busy searches. It also works with the GroupWise server in similar ways. And now with Desktop 10, Lotus is bringing the Lotus Workplace product to Linux, and so it'll be a client for Lotus Notes users as well. So with offline support, with free busy searching, we have a pretty good interface here now for basic collaboration needs. I'm going to jump into my email, which is usually what I spend most of my time doing. And you can see I have an email here, which maybe you can read, but it's from my hypothetical boss, Jeff. And he says, Nat, I'm leaving for London this evening, but I didn't receive an executive travel packet. So could you please send me the name of my hotel in London? OK. So now I have a job to do. So I'm going to clear my desktop. I'm just going to minimize these windows. You'll notice when I hit minimize, the windows are they're not just disappearing, they're sort of shrinking down into the task list there. It's sort of becoming semi-transparent and shrinking down. All right, so Jeff wants me to find what his hotel is in London, and I don't see his itinerary sitting here on my desktop, so I can kind of browse through my folders and maybe try to find it, see if I can remember where it was. This may take a while. There's another way we have of finding documents and finding information on your computer. To do that, I'm going to come down here to the lower left-hand corner of the screen and click on this sort of start menu-like thing, the computer menu. It's actually not a menu. We've developed a new interface for performing your kind of most basic operations on the computer. So in the lower left-hand corner here, you can see that we have your favorite applications. So these are the apps that you're most likely to want to run pretty frequently, like your web browser, your mail client, your word processor, that kind of thing. On the right, we have some system status and some common kind of system tasks, like locking the screen, logging out, or running the control center. And there's a More Applications button, so if you want to run an app that's not listed here, you can click on More Applications. And this window comes up, which shows you all of the apps that are installed on your computer, and they're kind of broken down by category. So I could type Office, and all my Office apps appear. Or I could type Game, and all my games show up, which is sort of handy. And the main menu interface also allows you to say, just show me my recently used apps. So these are the apps that I've most recently launched. Or show me my recent documents that I've opened and edited. So we think this is a pretty fast interface as a sort of alternative to the hierarchical menu that you see. This tends to be a lot simpler. And of course, it's all customizable. And you can right-click on any app and upgrade it or uninstall it or remove it from your favorites list, that sort of thing. But at the top, you see something kind of new, which is that we've put a search bar here in the interface. And you may remember our job is to find out where Jeff is staying in London. So I'm going to search for the word travel. And this window appears. And this is pretty interesting. This is my desktop search results window. So in Desktop 10, we've built an indexing and search system that we call Beagle. And Beagle makes it possible for you to search your entire personal information space. So that means your files, your documents. You can search the contents of your files, whatever format they're in. We support about 55 different formats right now, mainly due to contributions from the open source community, people who have written new filters and plugins and that sort of thing. You can search your emails. And if you have attachments in your emails, you can search those. IM logs, if you've had chat conversations with people over IM, those get indexed and logged. Notes, images, that kind of thing. And it's all sort of searchable from one tool here. So you see when I search for the word travel, first thing that came up were a couple of images. So I can open one of these if you want to see. So this is in Canada. I think it's in Ottawa.
Quebec.
It's in Quebec City? OK, that's in Quebec City. And then this is some kind of tiger. Is that a tiger? Yeah, OK. And you can see in the preview pane down here, you get a little bit of information about when the file was modified and that sort of thing. There are also some documents that matched. This is a Word document, and these are PDFs. The names don't contain the word travel, so obviously it's in the contents. Here's a note called Travel Notes. We have a simple note-taking system in the desktop, and you can see I've got some notes here about traveling. Check online before booking tickets, and only rent green rental cars for Jeff. And then down here you see some results which are sort of conversation-oriented. And these are IM conversations that we've had in the past. I can click on these and browse my IM logs and bring those up if I want to, which is kind of handy. And there's an email here too. I can open that email, whether it's on a server or not, and it'll say, here's this email. Looks like it doesn't contain the hotel information that I need. At the bottom is something kind of cool. We have these websites that show up here. And these are actually websites that I have viewed recently that contain the word travel, that match the search. So when you browse the web with Firefox, each of the web pages that you've used gets indexed. And then you can later search for it. So this is handy when you want to sort of answer that question, where did I read that thing about this? I can't remember. You can search and find the answer. And you'll notice when I click on each of these in the preview pane down here, you see a small thumbnail version of the website. And if I click, you can see the website itself. So it's pretty handy to have everything you've seen sort of indexed like that. It also, for some of us, might be kind of terrifying, the idea that all the web pages we view are indexed. So we do have a stealth mode if you want to sort of browse, something that you don't want indexed for whatever reason that might be.
That's really a fantastic interface, and we've already grown accustomed to it and cannot live without it. But in this example, you showed us absolutely everything, but it doesn't seem like it really helped you to actually find that document Jeff is looking for.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we can narrow our search. I know I'm looking for an itinerary, so if I just type itinerary, You can see a few things come up. One is a folder called itineraries, where I tend to store the itineraries that get sent by my travel agent. And it's kind of neat. That's in the plural, and I search for itinerary in the singular. And so you can see we're doing a little natural language processing there. And then a bunch of actual itineraries showed up here, but again, this isn't the one I want. So I'll just narrow this further and say London itinerary. And here it is. This is coming up in Adobe Acrobat Reader. Adobe's one of the ISVs who've been doing some work on the Linux desktop. So this is what Jeff was looking for. So I'm going to go back to my mail now with Jeff, and we'll just hit reply. And I'll say, hello, Jeff. I did a search, and found the itinerary for your trip. Looks like you are staying at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in London. So now what we could do is just drag the itinerary onto the mail there for Jeff.
Very nice. I think he was looking for a different document as well.
Yeah, that's right. Jeff mentioned in his email here that he wants an executive travel packet. So at our company, administrative assistants try to send out a one-page summary for our executives of what their travel looks like. So we have a template for that. I'll just search for that. And there it is. The executive travel summary comes up. We're supposed to fill in some basic information. This is opened in OpenOffice. This is a Microsoft Word template. So I'm traveling from Miami to London, staying at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. And it wants me to put an image in here. So I'll come back to my search tool and search for Mandarin, because I know I happen to have a picture of this hotel here somewhere that I downloaded earlier for this purpose. You can see some PDFs show up. We index PDFs and the little thumbnails of them. And here's the picture itself. So I'll just drag this picture. Let's just make this window a little smaller, and we can just drag this picture into OpenOffice, and it shows up. So we've made a document. Now we want to send it to Jeff.
So what format are you going to make it available to him? So you're using OpenOffice.org on Linux. What format are you going to use?
Yeah, so if I want to, I can do a save as, and I can save this as a variety of types. I can save it as a Microsoft Word file, or RTF, or I can save it as HTML if I want to. We also have something that's pretty handy, which is a button up here in the toolbar that will just save this document as a PDF. So I'm going to just click that, and we'll save it on my desktop and call it London Travel. Save it as a PDF. And you can see the document appears in the desktop here. And in fact, you might be able to notice, you might not be able to see, but you might be able to notice that this icon is actually a small thumbnail version of the document.
So how long would it take for the indexer to actually get that document? Because it matches the query you're currently running, right?
It should, yeah, because I typed Mandarin Hotel. So if I bring up this, you see this was the search interface, and londontravel.pdf just appeared in here. So it's kind of a real-time search. If I wanted to rename this document to England Travel, you can see that in the search that immediately changed. We have a real-time indexing and search service in the desktop for that. The little thumbnail thing is kind of cool, though, so I'm just going to, you might not be able to see, so I'm just going to make it a little bigger. So it's handy when you're looking through your files, you're browsing through your file system, to kind of have these little thumbnail images, because they remind you of what the document looks like. And you don't have to open it to see the first page of the document a little bit. So
usability is a priority for us. What if that's still not big enough?
Well, one of the things we can do with our new 3D accelerated desktop environment is you can actually do some zooming. So if we want to, we could zoom in on this. This is handy for web developers and people like that who want to get a closer look at things. And of course also for people with vision impairment, we're able to use these technologies to build better accessibility tools. So this is the document I need to send to Jeff. So I'm just going to drag it onto my mail, and we can send it off. Let me just sign my name. Have a good time. Okay. So what you've just seen is very easily with our search infrastructure, with some of our new easy-to-use and smoother window switching effects, with drag and drop, with OpenOffice, I was able to really quickly find the information Jeff was looking for, build a document, save it as a PDF, and send it off to him.
So this user experience actually came up and out of an extensive amount of usability research that we've conducted. We have 2 fixed labs that we're actually taking people in, and we have mobile ones that we've toured the world with. How did we accomplish this? We actually used regular people not tainted by any views on Linux desktop, people that were never exposed to the Linux desktop before, and we asked them to accomplish simple tasks, change your desktop background, send an email, things like that. And we actually recorded over 1,500 hours of those, making sure that we captured that data so we can then take it back to the engineers and negotiate that with them. So Nat, do you have one of those videos you could show us?
Yeah, like you said, we made a mobile usability lab. We took it around to different companies in different cities, and we took regular people who don't care about Linux and have never heard about it. We put them in front of a Linux desktop, one that was about 18 months, maybe 24 months old now, and we asked them to perform some simple tasks and videotape the results. And it's fun to watch their facial expressions and just kind of generally how they reacted to things. We learned a lot watching these videos, bringing them to the engineers and analyzing them. When people would see different parts of the interface and how they'd react, they'd sort of think out loud. So the general approach here, you can see, she has great facial expressions. You can see the general approach that we're taking here is actually kind of the inverse of what's been done in the open source community to date. In open source in general, the developer, the programmer, has been the king. Whatever he's able to write, whatever he's able to put into the code, that's what comes out. We're reversing things. We're taking more of a design-first philosophy with regards to our work. We're saying we're going to design first, we're going to do extensive and iterative usability testing, and that's going to give us a product.
And we're continuing to do that today.
Yep.
So I'm sure you have many more unread emails.
Yep. I have a mail here from a friend named Ethan Williams who says, Nat, I heard that your math team has done some research on hypocycloids. Could you please send me any relevant files? Sure. Sounds like an easy job for Beagle. So I'll just open a search for hypocycloid here. You can see a couple documents come up. This is a PowerPoint file, and this is an Excel spreadsheet. And here's that mail, in fact, that I just read. That also comes up. And what I'll do is I'll just open this PowerPoint presentation in OpenOffice. And I'll run it, take a look at what's in here.
So what you can see here is we actually spent a lot of time making sure that we would guarantee the support of all the features that the general knowledge workers actually need in terms of integration with the Microsoft Office documents and their file formats, supporting Open Document as well for document fidelity. We acquired new fonts that allows us to really render those documents as best possible.
Yeah, so we can actually OpenGL accelerate the different effects that you do in OpenOffice now, which makes them really smooth. We're able to support these documents when you load them and save them. If I were to make some changes to these effects and send them off to somebody, they would be preserved. And this is some great work we've done recently. We also have this spreadsheet, this hypocycloid spreadsheet here that I wanted to bring up for you. One of the toughest nuts that we had to crack in terms of Microsoft Office document compatibility were Visual Basic macros. So people who had written spreadsheets or Word documents that used VBA macros, could we load those? And as we deployed Linux over the last couple of years inside Novell, we encountered in the sales team and in other parts of the company pockets of people who couldn't use it because they weren't able to run their spreadsheets with VBA macros. So we did a fairly large piece of development work, and it's shipping now with OpenOffice in our desktop, in Desktop 10. And we now believe that we can import and run the vast majority, maybe 95, 98% of all spreadsheets that use VBA macros. So most spreadsheets, as it turns out, in the wild that you'll find at customer sites and partners and on Google and inside our own company are very simple. They use a really small subset of the VBA macro language. And even if they have maybe 2,000 or 3,000 macros in them, it's actually, it tends to be 3 or 4 macros that just repeat again and again. So this is a really complicated spreadsheet that uses VBA macros. And you can see it's drawing hypocycloids, which you may remember from your childhood. You may not. Maybe your childhood was different from mine. But these hypocycloids are really interesting structures that are being drawn using the Escher framework in Excel. This is a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet that was written in Excel that uses VBA macros that's running in OpenOffice on Linux.
Without requiring the use of an import tool or anything, you just open the document.
You just open the document and we actually just interpret the macros. And you can write your own Excel macros in OpenOffice too. We have a full development suite for it as well. So that's really powerful.
So I completely concur. Many CIOs told us that the support for VBA macros inside of Excel spreadsheets is critical. There's another component as part of the spreadsheet suite that was missing, which was a good support for pivot table. Where are we on that?
Yeah, OK. So I just happen to have a spreadsheet with pivot tables here. This fiscal year to date summary, which based on, I guess you all know probably how pivot tables work, but based on a bunch of product sales detail, we can produce these pivot tables which show different views of that data. So here's one really simple view which shows for the last quarter the breakdown of product sales by SKU. And if I want to, I could come in here and edit the pivot table definition, the various fields that are selected. And we have a couple different pivot tables here, so this is a different view of that. And we can load these and we can save them, and the formatting's retained, and everything Works really well in terms of pivot tables with the desktop. So in terms of our Office suite, just to summarize what we've shown you, we're loading and saving doc and XLS files. We have excellent fidelity in terms of formatting those. We can do change tracking. We can do all these things. We can produce documents. We can write PDF files from them. We can drag and drop with OpenOffice. It's well integrated into the rest of the desktop. We have PowerPoint presentation loading. We can do effects and transitions. We can OpenGL accelerate them. We have Microsoft VBA macro support now in OpenOffice for the first time. And we have pivot table support. And of course, this entire conference is running on OpenOffice, all these presentations that you're seeing.
So you've spent a lot of time in email already this morning. What about the rest of the IT infrastructure, like network file sharings and such?
Sure. So I'll just jump to my file browser here. I'm going to show you how easy it is for me to share a folder with the rest of my network. If everyone else in my organization is using a Windows network, I can right-click on this folder here, and I just come to Sharing Options, and this dialog appears, this folder sharing dialog. And all I have to do is select Share this folder, and hit Create Share, and a Windows file share is created. And anyone else who's on my network will see it. It will be broadcast. They'll pick it up. They'll be able to read files out of it. And if I click this other checkbox, they'll be able to write into the folder as well. It's really simple. If you have other file shares that are on your network that you want to browse yourself, you see in the left side of the file browser here, there's this Network Servers button. If you click on that, it'll bring up any shared files that are on the network. And then if you go into, let's say, OpenOffice or another, let me see if I can show you. If you say File Open in OpenOffice, you see Network Servers appears here too. And by the way, you can also search from in here. So if I wanted to search for Mandarin from in File Open, you can do that and bring up all your documents there. So we're making network access for documents very easy.
So whether it's a Novell OES server with Windows emulation or Microsoft Windows environment, we integrate to both. The same way, Active Directory support for the authentication, Novell directory support for the authentication, making sure that this drops in as a first-class citizen in your environment. We guarantee all that. We even introduce features such as offline support for authentication. If you're using a Kerberos or an AVLDAP environment, we have the ability to take those credentials for the mobile users and make those users able to reuse their credentials.
Yeah. I mean, our goal is really simple. We don't think that whole enterprises of 100,000 people will switch from Windows to Linux in one day. We think it'll happen in pieces. And when they do switch, there will be a time during which they have a Linux desktop that's in there next to Windows machines. And our goal is that you take your Linux desktop into your company, you drop it in place, and you don't have to change anything else. You don't change your servers. You don't change your other clients. They're not even aware that you've made a change. You speak natively all the protocols and file formats that you need to speak.
Those are all very, truly powerful desktop features. Now, we all also know that those corporate assets that are assigned to us are also used to provide some more personal tasks. So I got this here. Can you do anything with that?
Yeah, OK. So Guy's just handed me an iPod Nano. And I actually get to demo a couple different things at once for you here. The first is multimedia in general. In Linux and open source, there's been a lot of challenges that people have had around multimedia. How do you combine open source with playing MP3s and encoding MP3s and playing AAC files? How do you do that? No one's ever really solved this problem before, and the out-of-the-box experience has not really been there. You know, you bought your Linux distribution, then it's your job to go find some codecs that'll play MP3s for you. The other thing I can demo for you is our plug-and-play architecture. So when I plug this iPod in, the computer recognizes that a device was plugged into the USB port, and it brings up the device, and it warns me that I have too much music on my Nano. And then the sort of appropriate user action occurs. In this case, that's bringing up the music application. So this is Banshee. Banshee is the open source music player that we developed in conjunction with Real Networks, who are our partners in this. And what's exciting about Banshee is that it's sort of a one-stop shop for everything you want to do with music in Linux. So if you want to play MP3 files, I'll come up to my music library here. We can play some. You can play some Counting Crows, who I'm really excited are playing here in a couple days. And you can see the album cover comes up when I play these things. It's fetched off the network, which is kind of cool. Some Coldplay. These are MP3 files. We can play AAC files. We can play all your open formats like OGG and FLAC as well, of course, and real audio. And sort of, that's a nice thing to have. We can also write CDs from here. If you create a playlist and put in a blank CD, you can write it to your playlist. And then, of course, one cool thing I can do is I can actually play some songs right off the iPod. So Gershwin. Let's see, it's kind of quiet at the beginning, but you can hear. So that's handy. And if I want to, actually add some stuff to my iPod, like maybe a couple of these Counting Crows songs and this Black Masses song, I just drag them onto the iPod and say synchronize iPod and made some manual changes. So it'll just copy these files to the iPod and then they're on here. I can probably find them if I search for them. So here we go. So then I can play them off the iPod. So we have a pretty complete sort of music system here. And this is something which is really, people like to play music individually. We actually heard in some surprising places, people said, oh, we do email support in a call center. We need to listen to music while we're doing email support all day. So this gives people a way to do that.
Can I get the iPod back, please?
Oh, sure. Oh, I forgot to say one thing. It's kind of cool. You notice that when this iPod's plugged in here, this little icon here, whoops, is black. It looks like a little black iPod Nano. If this were a white one and we plugged it in, that would be a white icon. If it were pink, that would be pink. That's a nice little touch.
And we, of course, support other MP3 players as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we support the Creative line of MP3 players and the Dell Nomad series, too. So.
All right, definitely checked off the music of our list. That's great. Thank you, Nat.
Sure.
Next thing we both spend a lot of time doing is photos. We take a lot of pictures. We travel with many cameras. Can you do photo management in Desktop 10?
Yeah. So we have a cute little application that we built in Desktop 10 called FSpot. And FSpot is a photo browser. And this is a really neat application. Both this and Banshee were written using Mono, by the way. And what's nice about FSpot is it provides a really easy place for me to just dump all my photos. It's pretty fast. You can jump through your photos really quickly. You can manage things easily. If I scroll to the top, you can see I can change the size of these thumbnails. That looks pretty good. I have tags in FSpot. You may remember earlier that we had some photos that came up when I searched for the word travel, and you may have been wondering, how did it know those were travel photos? Please tell me, Nat. Well, I actually tagged those photos with a tag, the travel tag here. If I click on it, you see these photos that are tagged as travel. I could tag another photo as travel by just dragging this tag over there. And then when I click, those photos show up too. I have a favorites tag here, which shows me some of my favorite pictures. These are particularly nice. You can do slideshows, you can do editing, all that kind of stuff too.
This is exactly my best work. I don't think I've ever taken better pictures.
So we can show you our plug-and-play architecture once again. I'll plug in this camera, turn it on. If you get too close, you'll see that I broke the screen on my camera by sitting on it. So I'll show that off. And once again, the plug-and-play architecture kicks in. It recognizes the camera. This camera actually exposes itself as a photo card. And it offers me the option to import the pictures. So I'm going to say, yes, please go ahead. Recognizes the volume. And then we grab a couple of pictures. We can just say import. And here they show up at the top. So we see our wrapped audience and me looking my best. And our illustrious cameraman. So then I can, of course, I could edit these pictures if I want to. I could crop it, and I could change the.
What happened there?
That just wobbled a little bit. I could increase the contrast, maybe decrease the exposure a little bit, bring up the saturation, kind of make it an interesting picture. Once you make changes, you can always come back to the original photo, which is nice. And then we make it really easy to just put these pictures on the web. So I'm going to export this to Flickr. And I'm already authenticated against Flickr, which is where I keep my pictures. And it'll go out to the network and then loads the Flickr page and shows me the picture. So, here we are. We just took a picture like a minute ago, plugged it into the camera, edited it, and uploaded it. Now it's online. So this is nice stuff.
This is great. Speaking of multimedia, we talked about music, we talked about photos. The last component is probably videos, and we've talked about it earlier. We've created a lot of videos that should help you actually take that information back for yourselves. Overviews that were produced by Novell. They're available on novell.com/video/desktop. I invite you to go visit over there, and they can be downloaded. They're open source friendly as well. And they've been broken out in the different usability space. We talked about personal information management. We talked about Beagle, visual workspace. We're going to have a few more things there we want to talk about. So before we wrap up, Nat, let's go back to your computer and show that.
OK, yeah, I just want to show you one or two more cool things. While Guy's mentioning video, I have a trailer here for Madagascar on my machine. So I'm just going to open that. Oops, I don't think I opened it. So here it is. This is playing in the real player.
Welcome to the Central Park Zoo. It's
very cute. Penguins. We showed you earlier that if you have a bunch of windows on your screen and you want to jump between them, you can hit Alt-Tab to do that. And you notice now we have a movie playing. That movie's kind of getting previewed live there inside the Alt-Tab interface, which is nice. And then if I sort of tile the windows out, you can see it continues to play there too. So all this is kind of cute stuff we're doing with our desktop. But if you still have too many windows on your screen and you want another way to organize them, like let's say you really don't want your mail, you're not really using your mail right now, you can kind of just move it to the side. And then if you want to, you can come around to this side of the cube and put email here, and maybe your web browser's here, or maybe you're playing your movie here, or maybe you want to move your movie over here. So it's a cube. You can kind of zoom to any section of it, which is neat, and ask a window to follow you around. So you can have these. And if I want, I can really do something crazy. I can I don't know why you would ever do this, but you could play the movie kind of on the corner of the cube. Yeah, you can. It's okay to applaud. It's okay. So this is kind of powerful stuff. I mean, it's obviously fun. It's good to look at. We've actually had some customers see this and say, wow, I'd love to be able to, when I do online support, have one customer on each side of the cube. Or IT administrators have said when I'm managing virtualized servers, I could have one server on each face and switch between them really easily, which we think is cool stuff. So DVD?
Right.
Reminder for everybody?
If you would like to try this for yourself, just like Eric Anderson previously mentioned, this is part of SUSE Linux Enterprise, so the second DVD available in this kit for Beta 8 is the desktop part. So I invite you to try it for yourself, install it, and let us know what you think.
I just have one more thing to say, which is that very soon, the people who were in the room here earlier, a lot of those people are going to be asked to look at upgrading their operating system in some number of months. And they're going to be asked to buy new hardware. And they're going to be asked to swap out their whole operating system. And they'll be asked to retool their servers and their backends to match the front-end decisions that they've made. And they're going to be asked to retrain their users on a new user interface. So as long as they're considering that, why not also consider moving to something open?
Thank you.
Thanks.